Hi folks, Mark Merrill. This is Firm Politics as we continue on our episodes of continuing coverage of the GOP candidates for governor for the next several episodes. As our next few candidates we're going to bring up here for the governor's office in 2026. First, Ben Midgley and Kenneth Capron. As you can see before you, though, right now, there's many candidates for governor out there, both sides of the aisle, as you can tell here, including a couple of independents. This gentleman here, John Glowa from South China, and also this man up here, the older picture here, but J. Martin Vashon out of the northern part of Penobscot County. And of course, all of our other candidates on the Republican side, with the exception of Hannah Pingree and Angus King III. So the other gentleman, of course, right here is Troy Jackson. As we get started here, folks, the brief podcast we're about to give you, the main general population, you're the ones who want change, don't we all? And we want bipartisan cooperation with Democrats in the House and Republicans as well, in the Senate and the governor's office, and hopefully let's get some better ideas about each candidate and who can lead our state back to not only relevance but respect again. That's what we need, folks, some respect. Both sides of the aisle. Now here's our next candidate, Ben Midgley, who gave his brief opening statement at the October 18th GOP Forum.
Quick story, 35 years ago, there was a TV show, it's called American Gladiators. Maybe some people heard of it, some people haven't, but they came to the state of Maine a long time ago. They did a live tour of every state around the country. And I ended up trying out for that. They had about 300 guys and 300 women, and I'm only remembering that because we're here. I made it through, got a medal, got all roughed up, it was completely worth it, but it was here at the Civic Center, so it's a fun memory every time I come back. But in any case, I grew up in Maine. My wife grew up in Maine, she's right back here, Sonia. We have 3 kids who also grew up in the state, went to the same high school that I did. Personally, I never graduated college, tried to, but I couldn't make it. Ended up working 3 jobs, and one of those jobs I was working was cleaning machines in a gym in exchange for a membership. And I liked the industry, so stuck with that for 6 or 7 years, and then ended up with some tough times, ended up on unemployment. Ended up on food stamps for a while, and that was back in the day when food stamps were these bloody-colored tickets, if anybody remembers, that you pull off in the grocery store aisle. And, you know, there you go, and that's when I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. And I just buckled up and continued down the industry lane, and 30 years later, I've been the president of a company called Planet Fitness, a large franchise company. Left there, started another company called Crunch Fitness Franchising as a chief executive officer and founding partner, and over 15 years, built that to the #1 fitness company in the country, if not the world. We had 500 locations, 3 million members, over $1 billion in revenue, and I created 15,000 jobs building that company. So I know how to figure it out, how to create structure, momentum, and a very positive culture, which hasn't been happening in the state for a very long time, which was the reason I decided to run for governor. And also seeing the decline as rapidly as you all have in this state, which is has really gotten me to the point that you've got to do your best to get this fixed, as we all do. Thank you.
All right, well, that was Ben Midgley, ladies and gentlemen, and just momentarily, if you'll bear with us a second here. There he is, Mr. Midgley. The next gentleman we're going to have speaking, ladies and gentlemen, is from Eastport, and actually was brought up in that area, in the eastern coastal part of Maine, is Ken Capron. So as we said, Mr. Capron from that area has an interesting story to tell, and he'll be next. He's had several jobs in many different areas of experience and can certainly give a lot to our state of Maine in a technical kind of way. But this was his opening statement on that day, on October 18th, at the forum for the GOP gubernatorial candidates.
Ken Capron. Ken Capron. I was born in Eastport, and I've been a Mainer ever since. And I'm proud to say that I'm a resourceful Mainer, somebody who can make do with what you got, or do more with less. And that's pretty true across the state. I've seen a lot of blue tarps on our roads. Funny, the health hospital people didn't get that one either. The reason I'm running, and that's the only thing that's really important right here, is the reason I'm running is because for the first time since 2004, when I first got involved in politics, the requirements fit what I can do. I'm a CPA, I'm a systems engineer, I've done financial fraud investigation, I've done 900-page audit reports, I've done system efficiency. Those are the things that we need in Augusta the most right now. If it's not, you folks can vote for one of these other 7 candidates, or however many are there when voting time comes. But if you want the problems in Augusta solved by a professional who knows what it takes, not somebody who's not sure what it takes, I know what it's going to take to unravel the mess in Augusta. I'm proud to say that I'm the son of 2 very successful and somewhat wealthy sons who are, one who's doing well in Maine and one who refuses to come back to Maine because it's not a very good opportunity for him. So he's down in Massachusetts. When he left Falmouth, Maine, he got hooked up in the IT industry, and today he is the head of AI for Cognizant, a worldwide technical company. I'll leave it at that. If you have questions, I will come and visit you with at least a phone call, whatever it takes. I'm there for you. And when I started the Glenn Beck 912 project, I pledged to give my life to this party to make sure that Maine succeeds. And thank you very much.
Next up, folks, we're going to bring in 2 more candidates with their opening remarks. Originally, we were just going to go 2 by 2, but now we're going to present 4 in this episode of Firm on Politics, the GOP candidates for governor. We'll bring Mr. Libby up in just a moment. Also, we want to tell you about some of the issues and concerns of the GOP candidates as a complete body, as to what is most important to them, and even some of this information that I'll give you before we hear from Mr. Libby are what's on the minds of Maine people as we try to get out from underneath the despicable and corrupt and tyrannical Mills administration and all of her cronies who seem to be spreading out like cockroaches around the state and infiltrating and destroying people's rights and freedoms as they speak. And sometimes without doing a damn thing about stuff, like the Newburgh woman who got blank ballots in her mail by a ripped open and retaped Amazon box. Don't ever forget that one, folks. That story's not over, and there should be an investigation. Federal investigation. We'll bring up Mr. Libby's picture and also the next candidate after him, Jonathan Bush, as we continue on the GOP candidates for governor under firm politics. Now, Mr. Libby, as you can see, is on the top section here with Mr. Bush down below. But to continue on, folks, these are just some of the issues that the candidates brought up, and also said a lot of their constituents and supporters brought up as well. Budget cuts and cost of living, housing costs to build homes for new families, the DOGE cutbacks, as well as the organization that was put together at the beginning of President Trump's second term back there in January into February, March, and April. Department of Government Efficiency, candidate David Jones called it, he's going to latch onto it and call it the David Jones Government Efficiency. But also they mentioned solar subsidized power at tens of millions of dollars. What happens to those panels that you see all over central Maine and maybe even in greater capacity, folks? There's some at our own colleges and universities spread out in the fields. You can see them from the interstate, for God's sakes. What happens to them when they get to be close to 20 years old? You know what? We researched it a little bit way back there in 2021 and 2020, to be specific, when there was primary and other offices open for candidates. They start disintegrating before the 20th year. Where does they go? Into the ground. What does that do? If they're not taken care of before they start disintegrating into the land, into the soil, it can affect groundwater. It's been a major consideration, but also a concern of farmers and PFAS. That's what it can lead to. Also, folks, there was a big push by most Maine citizens of a 5.8% tax rate, more than any other New England state. Also, shipping in natural gas when we have the ability to link it within our own region. Keep politics out of energy, wind turbines as well, and get rid of them. That was one concern. Plus, reconfigure the PUC, keep Sappy's paper mill in Hinckley and open and running. And China, or the CCP, taking over Maine lands to open and run weed shops by illegals and CCP cartels. I'm sure you keep hearing about that in the national news. And all 8 candidates' combined efforts and experience would be the answer, as well as health care expenses to change for receiving better care, especially fraud issues and business taxes, including stopping the Maine income tax altogether. And staying on the health care side, folks, Maine Care has to be refigured to also simplify telecare, which is another topic we'll have to get into at another time, but as a new option, say the candidates. So, ladies and gentlemen, up next, as you can see here, we have Jim Libby. And he is from Cumberland, if you can't see that there. I know the writing or the printing is a little bit light. So we'll bring him up in a moment.
I'm Jim
2 minutes to tell you how good I am. So, geez, I'm going to have to really work at this one. But let me tell you, first of all, I have been in the trenches my entire life. And so a lot of people in the Republican Party, the first thing they say is, professor. Because those of you that know me know that I'm a professor. I've been an academic dean, I've been a professor, I've been an economist, I've been a basketball coach, I've been a girls basketball coach. There's so many roles that I've had, and each one of those roles, they really, in addition to being a senator, each one of those roles were hard. And I think that's what I want people to understand is, like, I have been battling on your behalf for a long time. Who else is teaching your kids and grandkids free market economics in college? Who else is doing that? Who else has been an administrator, like an academic dean in college, and hiring people that could really get the job done? Who else has been leading an organization like I do? And I'm not going to name my organization, you'll have to find out. But I've worked at many full-time at places like Thomas College, St. Joseph's College, Colby College. And I really believe in education, so I've been on the Education Committee and Cultural Affairs Committee of the state legislature 3 different times out of my 6 terms in office. And my 6 terms in office were over 30 years. They weren't consecutive. I've been doing this for a long time. I believe in the Republican Party. I've been working my tail off. And so I tell everybody, you know, it is really important to differentiate myself, so I do. I tell people, I've got a PhD. I work full time. I've never taken an unemployment check in my life. I've had a job full time since 1987 in this state. I'm a 14th generation Mainer. I care about this state. And I know how to be governor because I've worked with some of the better ones. Chuck McKernan was probably my favorite, and the thing that he taught me was, if you threaten the veto, you're gonna, first of all, you're gonna be a backboard for your party if they're in the minority. If they're in the majority, then we've got everything that we need. But if you threaten the veto, the 2 sides will have to work together. And you can get your own way anyway. So there you go. Thank you.
Now, next up, folks, we have already heard from candidate Robert Wessels. So we will let that one go on. And following Mr. Wessels, though, right away, is the next gentleman we have right here, Jonathan Bush. And you'll hear from him momentarily. And we'll stop there after Mr. Bush gives his opening statements and move on in our next episode to the remainder of the 8 candidates that were on the dais at the GOP Forum on October 18th at the Augusta Civic Center. Here, first of all, is Robert Wessels from center part of Maine, you might say, Central Eastern, South Paris. Here's his statement first, folks.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to start out by having a sappy moment here. 2 years ago, I was sitting in the Civic Center and I was looking around the room and I knew nobody. And it was right around that time that I had just launched my campaign for governor. And so I'm looking around the room tonight and I know a ton of you. And so those of you who don't know me, come on over, let's talk. I'd love to chat with you. But the last 2 years I've been campaigning around the state and it's been an amazing experience. I've absolutely loved having the conversations with thousands and thousands of Mainers all over the state. And so, who is Robert Wessels? Sorry. Thank you for going down memory lane with me. I'm a businessman and I have my MBA. I'm just a everyday Mainer who looked at Augusta and said, this is not sustainable. This is terrible. Somebody's got to do something. And I have the ability and I'm willing to do it, and so I stepped up to do it. I also acknowledge that nobody knows my name, so I need to get started early. I'm a family man, and we homeschool all 3 of our kids. They're 17, 19, and 21. And 2 of them are here tonight. So again, just to me, family matters. And when I look at where we are as a culture and where we need to be, we have so much ground to make up with the family and parental rights. Education as well. I'm a financial coach. I've been doing financial coaching, Dave Ramsey, for the last 18 years. And so I'm one of those budgeting nuts that absolutely, just give me a good spreadsheet and we can work on that. So again, why am I running? I'm running for my kids. I'm running for our future. We absolutely must focus on education, and we must focus on the economics of our state because we are hurting. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Bush.
Hello there. I'm Jonathan Bush, and I am a disruptive innovator by trade. I'm the father of 7 fantastic children. Some of them may be adults by now. And I am a fanatic Maine optimist because I have had the singular joy of looking under the economic hood in Waldo County of the Maine workforce and building 1,000 of the most marvelous, resilient, valuable jobs, growing net income in Waldo County 4 times more than the rest of the state. And yet, when you look outside of that one beautiful moment, we're in a terrible mess. Gosh, we're on the top of every list you don't want to be on, and we're on the bottom of every list you want to top. I don't know whether it's education at 39 down from number 1, infrastructure at 49, thank God for Alaska. It goes on and on. And it's because of a leadership culture that is toxic. There is an obsession with self-hating social engineering that has taken over this state, a largely conservative, self-sufficient state, over the last 10 years, and it blows my mind. What to do about it? We must act quickly. We must bring the American dream back in here and make it believable in Maine. That means we need to cut taxes, start with income by $1 billion. Then we got to audit Augusta, go through every line item and find the duplication and waste and automate and delegate, as I have done countless times before. Then we got to make Maine the easiest place in the country to build a home or a business. Today, we're almost the bottom. Now, I know these changes will be resisted. I know whole clubs and ecosystems of interests have grown up around this, but I know how to change that, and Lord help me, I will. Thanks.
So there we are, ladies and gentlemen, for today's program on the GOP candidates going to the Augusta Civic Center on that particular day, and gave their presentations and their opening statements, and also took a lot of Q&A from the general public at the session. We here at Firm, ladies and gentlemen, are with you all the way here when it comes to conservative right-wing and freedom under the Constitution, the laws, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. Now, before we close, folks, we just want to present another very important part of our ongoing reminders as we get through and into the voting, or I should say the November 4th elections coming up here in 2025. Of course, we always want you to know, folks, that we are here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even though we do podcasts 5 times a week, you can always pick them up right there. As you can see, as we put them off a little bit to the side, you can still see them at YouTube and Twitter, or X.com, Monday through Saturday. We do thank our candidates for being part of this particular program and others. And as we move our camera to the other side, folks, I want to point out that now you can certainly see that we are involved with the voting process for citizen referendum questions 1 and 2. This one in particular, folks, right here. As you can see by the back of the officer there, the ICE officer, vote yes on question 1 for voter ID. We need it. And couldn't emphasize it more than the way it's emphasized right here in a flyer that's been sent out to most voters throughout central Maine and probably the entire state for all that matters. Maine needs to pass voter ID requirements and secure our future elections. The Maine Wire is quoted here as saying an illegal alien from Africa was behind the wheel of a 2013 Buick Verano that killed a Massachusetts woman, Lewiston's Kennedy Park, Friday afternoon, and he had a Maine driver's permit. That can't be allowed. We can't stand for it, folks. President Trump's ICE organization is finally cracking down on the crime in Maine, and now it's our turn to secure Maine for the president. As always, folks, as we just mentioned, we are firm. As you can see, Fairness in Reporting Media, I am Mark Merrill. Stay safe. Pray for our leaders in office, in the federal government, and those in our state that still have a heart and morals, who care about things like this happening in our state that we cannot let keep happening anymore, ever again. Or there must be severe consequences for those who do break the law. Stay safe, everyone. Peace to all.